Okay, chicken or the egg? What do you think came first? And tell me why. And I don't want some bullshit answer. I want an exact
No.
answer that you can actually like. I don't have an answer against. You know, like it needs to be like I can't. Solid proof. Go.
Okay. So my answer, even though it sounds crazy, even to me, the chicken came first because the chicken has to have the egg. And you're like, well, how do you have the egg? Well, the thing just existed. So I'm just gonna say that it came from the ooze, and the chicken ooze was there, and then it made the egg.
What's the chicken ooze?
I don't know. Like, they say there's the ooze in science from from when Earth was created. So I'm gonna say the oozy chicken came first, and then it had an egg.
Oozy chicken. So you know, like when you
Yes.
boil an egg or you like fry an egg, you've got that little like kind of. It's a different type of liquid inside the egg. Is that what you call the ooze? Like the original source of the egg?
Yes. So the ooze came first. That's what I'm going with.
But if the ooze came from the egg and the egg came from the chicken, then
Oh no,
why
I
did
I didn't say the ooze came from the egg. I just said the ooze. The ooze came from somewhere. I'm like the ooze came from the ocean or something. I'm not even
got it?
gonna have the egg.
No, it's true. Like I believe that we have you noticed, right? Semen smells of fish, right? And you have like certain trees that have the same smell as semen. And obviously semen is like creation of life, right? But it's interesting how let's just say we did come from a
Right.
fish, like a little tadpole, like a little microorganism that was swimming in water. So years ago you had like water and the sun went on it and it created like more mosquitoes. You know when you have like a puddle in the summer and like mosquitoes
Yeah.
start to swim in it. Well, I believe we literally
Right.
came from that. A bit of water, a bit of sun, and it created like a little tadpole, and that became a frog, and that became a bird, and that became a fucking egg, and an ouzo, and then a chicken, and then a fucking turkey, and an ostrich, and a dinosaur. I literally think we came from water. What do you reckon on that?
Yes, the ooze. I mean, even though it's for me, it's weird because I think your mosquito analogy is a really good one because if you have standing water, all of a sudden there's larvae from insects. So where does that larva come from, right? And so I would guess that things are created in water from sort of elements connecting, and then stuff is created. So I think that's a good question. I mean, I've thought about that question, but I've never given the answer that I just gave you, and I like that answer I just gave.
Yeah, so you should. Because think about it, right? There's water and then there's sun and they just suddenly grow. So does it grow from the water or does something go into the water like a seed or whatever and then that seed grows in the water? Like if you just put, for example, that water in a room that was boxed off, would it grow? If you put it like in the middle of the desert where there's just like dust and sand, would it grow? Or does it grow because it's got like tree pollen or grass pollen? Or does a mosquito shit in it and then that creates, does a mosquito lay an egg in it? Is that why it happens? Like, it's interesting.
I, I I think it's even with the photosynthesis thing. I thought about this the other day. Now that you bring it up, I was like, you know what? Trees eat light. Like that's their food. Like they eat light. Like the sun, which we can't touch, but they eat it and they grow. So what you're saying actually, I think is very tangible. That there's an invisible substance that exists that grows stuff. And so I think if you leave water in the space, something will grow from it. And I just think it's because it's just organisms in the air. So like life is always being created, whether we know it or not.
That's a very good point. Like the tree uses light for food, right? So let's just say that light is actually heat, right? Light isn't light, it's heat. Like it's the sun, which is heat, and it's so like on fire that you can see it. So really, it's heat. So if life has come from heat, like we always have to think like, is there a source? Is there an egg? Is there a chicken? Like something has to create it first. Well, if you think about how trees use light as their food and take away everything, you've got the sun and the earth millions of years ago. Well, if the sun just heated up the earth, then that's all that was needed to create life. Does that make sense? Like it's heat that created life. So it's like, where did the first source of life come from? Well, that is the whole point. There's some kind of molecule in heat that creates something, and that's your answer. And then it just evolves from, I said, as a more small mosquito. Like, let's just say that you've got part of the earth that is hot, and then it cools. That creates condensation. Condensation is water. So now you've got water and heat, which creates that first little bit of bacteria. And then it just grows from that point onwards. And like certain parts of the earth, because it's got more hot heat, the animals grow quicker. And the other part, the animals die quicker. Hence why you've got birds that are this size, and dinosaurs that are this size, and humans that are this size, and animals that are this size. And it makes sense how we've all evolved at different stages, and we all come from the same thing. Like, you look at a polar bear, it looks just like a cow when you think about it. It's on four legs, just slightly, his skull's a bit different, but it's pretty much the same thing. You look at like we went from apes to humans, and apes that like polar bears and cows and pigs. We've all come from the same little mosquito, which I think has come from just heat and water, yeah.
And in addition to that, I would say that the reason I think also life exists is because, for instance, heat is combined elements. And so when you have combined elements and then you hit water with other combined elements, you have like 4 or 5 elements, I mean, based on just science, that creates things. So you have hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, carbon, and they're just all smashing into each other. And science has already shown us when you start combining elements, they make things. Like water is literally 3 elements squished together, and it creates a thing, which can be a solid or a liquid or a gas. So if those things exist, all you need is more than one element to create another thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, it all makes sense when you think about it like that, how we think it's just air. Well, it's not just air. There's so many elements made up in that air. And how do we know that these elements don't create life just because scientists hasn't worked it out, like what nitrogen can do or what not do? We don't know that there's stuff in the air like nitrogen can react with oxygen or whatever and create a tadpole. Like, we don't know. That's what's so amazing about life, is that we see what we see, but yet there's another whole world going on, and we really have no control over it.
Well, I think it's interesting. I don't know if you've ever thought about this. When people talk about aliens, like, I think there's an imagination where people create things for aliens, and aliens are always green people with like weird looking heads and stuff. And I do wonder, I'm like, well, what if aliens look exactly like us? Why do aliens have to look different than we do? Because I mean, we look at other humans differently. Or what if aliens are invisible? But because we don't know all of what life looks like, in everyday life, we discover new life every day. I mean, like there's different like illnesses and stuff that happen every day that we're like, oh, that's new. Well, it technically is not new. It always existed. We just didn't know it existed. And so I think knowledge is limited as the mind that thinks it, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like people say, oh, this animal's become extinct. Well, how the fuck do you know that there's not that another lion or white lion in the mountains somewhere? Like, have you been to the mountains? Like, how can you say it's extinct? Fucking half the whole world's covered in water. Have you got a camera at every part of the world? How the hell do you know that rhinoceros is the last one? Like, you just don't know that, right? For all you know, they could be alone in the jungle, like just enjoying their day. But yeah, people, they find new species all the time. Like in England, every year, there's a new bug, a new creature, a new fly, which I've not seen before. And that's because, as you know, as the Earth, the climate changes, they migrate from, say, France, where it was 30 degrees, and they come here, which is now 30 degrees. And last year it was 28 degrees. So I'm seeing all these creatures and bugs. I'm like, wow, look at this thing. Like, what the fuck is this? This is amazing. Yeah, we only know what we know until we don't know it.
Well, another thing I think is interesting. I was talking to a friend about this, and I said, we explore. There's always talk about exploring outer space, and you made mention of it. The Earth is close to 80% water, and we literally we've only explored 5% of the ocean. We don't even know what's on the planet we're on right now. So it makes it more interesting to me, because I'm like, we're willing to go somewhere else to go away from here, but we don't know what's here. And you kind of run into those same elements. When you go up, you run into a lot of pressure. And when you go down, you run into a lot of pressure. But people don't know how to do it. And it does actually confuse me of how do we figure the science out of how to go into space where we deal with pressure being condensed and there's no gravity, but we haven't figured out how to go into the ocean, which is kind of the same, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's rock. Like we're standing on the desert rock now. If that was to flood with water, that would be the ocean. So how come you can stand on like this earth now, but then when there's loads of floods, you go under, you feel that pressure? And I suppose the answer is just the weight of the water. That's really what it is. It's just the weight of the water.
And I'm confused why I mean, why has it, maybe, I don't even know, maybe, but maybe there's I guess they don't believe there's the money in it or whatever, because like when people talk about I would love to know, like I'm picking a movie, right? But like Finding Nemo, which is a fantastic movie to me, right? but Finding Nemo, you have they understand that there are thousands of sea life species that we have no idea exist because we've just never explored it. And so, similar to what you said, what if there are things down there where we talk about this is extinct and that's extinct? And when we go in the ocean, we like, holy cow, all this stuff is down there, right? But we don't know how to go down there.
Yeah, like there's so many different oceans and different temperatures of oceans that different life can grow at different oceans. Like you see online, like top 10 mysterious fishes found in the ocean. You've got like some fish that's like this and like fucking teeth like that and like four eyes and it's like electric and it's got colors. And we're like, oh my god, look at that. And I thought a lobster was pretty. So yeah, there's so much stuff that we don't know. And it's interesting because you say about how we have this perception of aliens have big eyes, big skulls, and a green head. Well, that's based on films, right? But everything that comes from the mind isn't like made up on that spot. It's come down from past thought. So eventually, somewhere along the line, somebody might have seen an alien, put that thought out in the universe, and the director picks up that thought, and it becomes a reality of his film. But I think to myself, like the other day, I was speaking on a podcast about how we might have done this cycle again and again and again. So you think about how pyramids got there and how Stonehenge got there. We think, okay, so we had tractors in the last 100 years. How did they lift those rocks without a tractor? Well, there must have been another way that we didn't have, that we don't have now, for example. And there could be, you know how we're trying to go to space? Well, many, many years ago, the generation that made, Stonehenge and shit, they could have gone to space on a round spaceship and be living up there. And then fucking global warming takes over and we die out. But they're still up there. So it's like us, we have planes and rockets, we go to space, everything goes underwater, everything dies out, and then they come down eventually to the next humans. But instead of a round spaceship, it's a rocket like that. And we're just repeating the same cycle over and over and over again. Like there's ancient cities found in water. When this goes underwater, we'll have our houses underwater. So, it's just the same cycle. I mean, I'm starting to think maybe humans haven't, maybe we've evolved like this many, 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 many times. Like you think about how quickly we've just gone from nothing to everything in like 50 years. Well, how come all these dumb motherfucking humans like didn't work all this shit out before? Like, are they dumb or are we just really smart? Or is this the cycle? And then in 200 years, we wipe ourselves out because we're too smart. Like we make the flu jabs, we survive, and then the flu jab just takes over. And then we just die out and then fucking get flooded. Some go to Mars and then they become the aliens of, like when we think there's aliens. So maybe there is aliens out there. Maybe it's just the spaceships flying around and the aliens are just the past generation. Like, you get too smart and you think, oh, let's go up there. And you know what I mean?
Well, it's interesting because if we think about whatever history tells us in the books that we read or are told about, that these ancient civilizations were able to create things that we look in and we're like, how were they able to create it? We have indigenous people that we connect very closely to them. I mean, like they don't have the knowledge we have, but they were able to find cures for things and be able to tell time and have calendars. And you're like, how the hell did they do that? And then you look at us and we I mean, obviously the social media, like where we're we're teaching people how to wash their hands again to how to prevent the virus, when that's something that people should have always been doing, which kind of shows that maybe people are, as they become smarter, they actually devolve, and because
True.
everything is so easy for them that they just
Very
don't
true.
think about those things. And I think another question, which it never entered my mind until you just said it, like for instance, people want to go and live in outer space. How come we've never tried to live inside of the ocean? Now I know I've seen like videos or whatever where there's in places like Dubai where they have underwater, they have like island houses where they just have parts of it under the water. But I do wonder why we don't try to live in the water. Like, I think that would be cool, right? I mean, why not live in the water? Because if we can figure out how to live in outer space again, I just kind of question, why don't we try to live? The water is more expansive than the earth, so living in the water actually doesn't seem like it would be a bad thing. I mean, if we're talking about, oh well, we're running out of space.
Hang on. You just say that all over again, that last 20 seconds, because you became a robot, an alien took over your brain, and Satan possessed you.
Oh, okay.
And I couldn't hear a word. It was all like possessive.
Okay, no problem. About living in the water, right? Am I going back to the water?
Yeah, just the last 20 seconds.
Yeah, no, I just think it would be really cool. Like I've seen videos of like houses and stuff where, these architects think about like homes under the water. Like they create those islands near, I think it's Dubai or somewhere in the Middle East. And they have part of the house under the water. And I question, why don't we try to live underwater? If we're also like, hey, let's live in outer space. Well, why haven't we, or why aren't we trying to live in the water? The water is more expansive than the actual earth we have. And you can build down. So if you can build skyscrapers up, then why can't you build a water scraper down? I don't know if you would call that a water scraper. I can't think of a word for that. A sea scraper. A sea scraper.
I don't know. I guess it's just because that water will start to rot everything, and the pressure of the ocean. I don't know. Is it more pressure in the ocean than there is in space? I don't know. Maybe that's why.
I don't know that one. I mean, even though if you think about it, when we build buildings up into the sky, we have to deal with oxidation and the elements coming together to corrode it. So if we figured out science for that, we can figure out the science of we build bridges that go deep into the ocean, and we have steel beams, and we don't necessarily worry too much about those rotting. So if we can build the framework for it, then we can build the structure around the framework, just like we build up, I would guess, right? I mean, the people are pretty damn smart. Well, I don't know if you've ever watched how they build bridges. That's freaking amazing, man. Like when they build bridges, they use a boat, and they use a water remover, and they dump water out over and over and over, and then they pour in the concrete and all that stuff. And if we can put steel structures that hold, bridges are amazing things. And if we can do that, then why couldn't we build like buildings under the water? I guess, right?
It's true. Like I look at, like, for example, bridges in England, right? They're made from wooden beams, and I'm like, well, how come that's not rotted yet? So maybe if you have a thick enough piece of wood, it doesn't actually rot. Maybe because that, otherwise, how come it doesn't rot? Like you have a massive tree, like on some grass or some land. That takes, a bit of time to rot, but underwater, it doesn't seem to rot. I don't know whether it's soaked in some kind of like liquid or some powder, or it's reinforced with metal. I don't know, but yeah, it's a good point. Like I believe that we've all come from apes, and we've all left the jungle, and we've become on land. So, for example, you've got jungle and tribesmen still there. Let's say in 200 years, they leave the jungle and become the modern day human and start, making phones and shit. And by that time, all modern day humans now, they've either died and wiped themselves out, got flooded, died of boredom on their phones, or they've become an ape again because they've on their phones like this, and now they're like back starting to arch, and now they're all walking on all fours because they're like constantly in their chair like this. So now you've got someone like that who's on his phone like that, like an old man. Or we've gone to space,
right?
And they're like, what the fuck is all this shit? What, they've come out the jungle, like, what the fuck? What is this? What is this? Do I eat it? Like, it's just shit everywhere. No humans. Like, well, we might as well go back in the jungle. There's nowhere to live. So it was all occupied with houses and shit.
Well, what's interesting now, the first time I thought of this as well, is that you said something about maybe there's a chemical or a liquid put on wood to prevent it from rot. Well, then I think about swamps. In swamp areas, and in places where it rains pretty heavily, why don't those trees rot? they should fall over, right? But they don't. And I mean, if we think about trees come directly from the earth and they only grow from water and the sun. So technically it's something that we do, I would guess, to the tree. Because I mean, in a rainforest, like if you go to a rainforest, no one ever worries about them rotten. So maybe it's something humans do to the wood, because I think that wood and a lot of those places that are sort of untouched, they don't worry. They don't, for far as I know, they don't fall over. Like people don't walk into a rainforest and worry about the tree falling on them because of the water. So maybe we have a misunderstanding about how water affects wood as well.
That's a very,
Possibly.
very, very good point. If you think about swamps and rainforests, those trees are strong. So why is that? Maybe it's a type of water. Like, for example, swamp water's not got lots of salt in, whereas ocean water has lots of salt. Maybe salt preserves the
Yeah.
wood. Like, for example, salt preserves food. Well, imagine like you've
Right.
got a bit of broccoli. A broccoli is basically a tree, right? You've got a walnut.
Right.
A walnut comes from a tree. So if most food comes from a tree, or the same like stem cells of a tree, maybe that if salt preserves food and it's come from a tree, it preserves the tree. Whereas, but yeah, like you go to like swamp, which isn't, say, ocean water, it doesn't rot. But then the seawater doesn't rot the beams. But then some places like where I live, you've just got like a normal woodlands and the trees rotting.
Hmm.
And it's like, well, maybe it's fumes of cars, maybe it's, I don't know, the different type of oxygen, maybe it's the lack of trees, maybe it's I don't know, like, it's interesting. I've not thought about this either.
Yeah, I just think that's interesting because there's some places where there's water all the time, and we worry about wood and water, but there's it just doesn't happen. I mean, there's in like the southern United States, like near New Orleans, there's bayous, and those trees don't fall over, and it's literally the water. Like the water is around the tree, like the tree roots and stumps all the time, and we don't worry about the tree root and stump falling over, and it's holding like grand, large trees. So maybe our understanding of or maybe we need the chemicals that come from, or the bacteria, kind of going back to something we said earlier. Maybe we need those things to preserve the wood. Maybe that's what preserves the wood.
And it's interesting because when you think about how, you know, different gases, it ionizes and like changes stuff in the air, like different elements, say oxygen, nitrogen, whatever. If it reacts to stuff in the air, maybe certain parts of the earth have different elements in the air, and that reacts differently to trees based on like the level of oxygen, the level of nitrogen. So you go into the rainforest, pure oxygen, just trees and life everywhere. Oxygen, just somehow, and oxygen fueled water, and it makes the plants grow and not die. But then you think about, you know, where you just put a tree in someone's garden and woodland. Well, that's made up of like not complete oxygen, because there's houses, there's cars, there's humans, there's everything, and the difference in the air could be the difference between whether something grows or rots. Even like, you know, the soil, for example, if a developer's built on that soil, then it's not pure like natural soil. It's like fucking bricks and rubble and clay and shit. Whereas, you know, in the swamp or the jungle, it's just pure decay of trees over time, and pure solids and pure like soil. So yeah, again, that makes sense.
It does, and to me, I kind of think it makes me laugh a little bit because I was listening to something Neil deGrasse Tyson was saying. I don't know if you know who he is, but he's like, I know he does the
Absolutely.
Cosmos now. And it's interesting because I like him, but he's also a little arrogant. And so some scientists are really arrogant. And I think about them sort of listening to a conversation like this and be like, oh, well, it's this and this. And I think about it like every person who studies science is just practicing it. They don't necessarily know. And I'm sure maybe they have asked these questions, right? But or maybe they haven't, because they're so smart that they look past it. I think about like when we first learned maths, right? Or as is it said in England differently than United States in math. But when you learn maths, which makes sense, once you know one math, you kind of move past the process of that simple math and just move to the next thing. So like we went from adding, and we think about the every step in adding, to multiplication, where we just stop thinking about the adding steps, because all adding multiplication is multiple adding, right? And then we go into chemicals, algebra and calculus, and it's literally all that same basic math, but we're too smart from that. So we're a little insulted if someone says, well, what's 1 + 1? Well, who cares? I mean, we know how to do. I'm like, but dude, if you forget about the foundational things that created us, then and you feel you're too smart to know kind of a specific basic fundamental thing, I think it misses things where we don't think about those simple things anymore. And then those simple things may have the answers. Like I've always thought children are some of the smartest people in the world because they are not hindered with knowledge, you know, and so they probably they ask why to questions that we're like, oh, it's just because, and they're like, but why? And you're like, damn it, kid, don't ask me because I didn't think about that anymore. So I do wonder if there's things that we think that are, I think they're very intriguing that some people are like, oh, well, that's silly, and it's like, is it really silly? Like, you know, I don't think it is, and I do wonder, like, you know, what sort of a degreed or a certified institution certified person would say to sort of the questions that we have. Because I mean, I know they may have more insight than answers, but I don't know if they have the answers as opposed to the insight.
It's true. Like a lot of my intelligence is all about the basics of reversing everything. Like a lot of my knowledge is about it all goes down to like what Jesus did in his day. Like just not Jesus exists or not. It's just the lifestyle, the culture, and the wisdom. And like you go back in time, the basics of man and everything, then you realize why all these problems exist, because you realize the man was never supposed to live like this. And if you go back to this, then your life becomes easier. So yeah, if you think about a child before they go to school and learn about all this bollocks and everything, and they go into the real world and they see everything, they are pure. They are a Jesus back in the day with nothing around. They're learning, like there's just nil, apart from just like what's their imagination and creativity, becoming in tune to yourself and the voice in your head. Yeah, they are the smartest. And then when they grow up and they learn all this bollocks that's around, it interferes with their natural intelligence, and then that's where everyone starts to become dumb, because they lose intelligence and they learn stuff that's just bollocks and it's just nonsense. And you said something a minute ago about I can't remember. Anyway, yeah, children are very smart because it's before you can, like, they're not programmed yet, and they can tune into anything.
I do wonder, like, why we create the program we do. Like, I get it, it's about comfort, like we want to be comfortable, but I wrote a book 3 years ago or something like that. It's called Prisons of Wealth, right? And I thought about it because I wrote this book. I was in the United States, and I left the United States to teach English in South America, and I loved being so super uncomfortable in that place, right? And because, like, communication, like, you can actually communicate with people non-verbally. We actually have a universal language that we often don't think about. And so when I was there in South America, I was like, oh my God, like, I don't know the language, but I was still able to communicate with people. And so in my downtime, I started thinking about, like, what is really wealth, right? And I thought about it, and I'm like, there's different concepts and there's layers to wealth. And wealth is an ideal that we create. For example, if you give a little kid $1 or a lollipop, which thing would they want? Well, they will want the lollipop because the lollipop is the thing, right? But for humans, as we become older, in this sort of generalized sense of humans in the modern society we have, I guess Western society, if you want to call it that, we have shifted wealth to other things. And that's where you talk about, like, this knowledge we have of, like, oh, what's so important? Well, you need to know this, and you need to be able to speak a certain way. And you're like, well, damn it, if you understand what I'm saying, who cares, right? And children, like, poo all of that stuff. And I think they're the richest people in the world, even though, yes, someone has to take care of them in general. But I think once they have the basic knowledge of how to take care of their basic needs of, food, shelter, and I guess a general sense of protection, like, what else do we really need? I mean, so it becomes a question of what really is wealth. But we have the thing where we want to be like everyone else, in a sense, because we want to feel that kinship. But because I do think that's important, it becomes then you have to, that's when you start to determine what is knowledge, or what knowledge is worth knowing, and what is, like, value or what is wealth for your life? How have you stored up this amount of stuff to create a value or hierarchy of, oh, well, I'm this level and you're this level, and then even if we're at the same level, some people don't necessarily like being here. And it's so for me, kids don't even think about that because they don't know. And I'm often envious of children for that free mentality they have.
Yeah, like wealth, technically, if you say wealth, I think of money. And money is just like how we trade. And if you want more things, more materialistic things that someone else has created, you need more money to trade with them. But when you think about it, wealth is about freedom. Money enables you to be free and have more freedom and choice and thought. So really, wealth is freedom. So if you have freedom, you have wealth. So yeah, children, they are wealthy at that age because they are free-minded. They can do what they want. They can go and play where they want. They can think how they want. They don't know anything. Like you see kids speaking to themselves. Well, they're speaking to the voice in their head. They're playing like with their dolls, and they're thinking that this person is speaking to them. And it's amazing when you see children play, because one person's often them as a person and how they feel, and then the other person's somebody else, and they're like, what's wrong with you? She's being mean to me. And she's actually seeing herself as the doll, communicating to someone about how she feels or how that person is treating her. It's very fascinating. It's like, rather than them saying to like their parents how they feel, they're one of them is the doll, and the other person is speaking to them, and they're asking how you feel, which is like her mum asking how she feels, and then she's saying, "Daddy keeps running away, never comes home," and that's her life and her daddy not coming home. Like in Shooter on Netflix, I'm watching. I just finished watching. It's the same story for the daughter. Like the dad's always away doing all the missions, and the kid is speaking to the doll and saying, I don't like it how daddy's never here. So yeah, freedom of thought. They're wealthy kids because wealth is freedom, and they are free spirited until they go to school and get filled with government book textbook bollocks.
Well, another thing that I think is really interesting, as you mentioned it, is like what happened to our imagination. Because like, for instance, I mentioned I wrote a book, but like I'm writing two screenplays right now, only because I'm interested in like the art of cinema and its being an imagination, and sort of revisiting my own imagination. I do wonder why humans, or not even humans, maybe adults, why did adults throw, maybe it's the wrong word, but why did we throw our imagination away? And I asked people this. I asked this kind of regularly. I'm like, hey, do you have an imagination? And people will look at me and like, what? Having an imagination is what creates
Hang on. The
everything. Like,
fucking robot. Hang on. Say that last 10, 15
again? Okay, I'm a robot. Okay, well, I'm going to go back to imagination. So tell me when I start.
You can start now.
Okay. So I was just curious about, like, I wonder why humans have willingly thrown their imaginations away. I find that to be kind of sad. I'm one. I know my imagination is far from what it was before, because my imagination has been taken over by whatever media or the film industry has done to make me think of what an imagination is, like the alien example. But I feel like imagination is so important. I mean, we think about, like, while I wasn't alive, we look at some old science fiction films, and a lot of the things that were in science fiction are now things today, like a telephone where you can see people like this, right? And or other things where you can virtually do stuff, and you're like, wow, how did they do those things? And someone had to imagine it, and you're like, well, what can we imagine past what we are? Because I asked this question to my friends, right? uh most humans, if they have a cell phone, many of them have a smartphone, some iteration of a smartphone where they can touch the glass, which is sand, melted sand and elements, right? And it melt that melted sand, turn into glass, and it has tiny other sand things inside of it that are microchips and other things like that. And you're like, okay, so we took sand and we turned it in computers, and they transfer information through invisible waves that we can't see but we know exist. And you're like, well, what's next for a cell phone? Because if you look at the evolution of the telephone, it was a big thing like this, and you had to do the thingy like that. I don't really know. And then they had a cord, and now they don't have cords anymore. or they have cords voluntarily, and now they have touch screens. And I do wonder, like, what's the next iteration of a phone? Is it the 3D hologram thing? Like, what do we do next? And so I ask, like, what's next? Because if you can figure out what's the next iteration of communication technology, then you are the next wealthy person. Because like Steve Jobs, I mean, if you look at like the stuff he did with the iPhone, yes, the iPhone was cool, the computer was cool, the Mac was cool, but he was taking existing things and mashing them together, basically like taking elements of oxygen and hydrogen and mashing them together, and you get water, right? So he understood that. But he took someone else's idea, and he took people who were smarter or whatever. And so I'm wondering, like, what's the next thing to get mashed together for the next level of technology?
So often I'm right with predicting the future. Often the stuff I think about happens 3-5 years later. So my prediction is, for example, you know how you've got an iPhone which is this big, right? The iPhone's going to flip. It's going to flip. So it's going to get thinner, right? But it's going to flip like a flip phone. So everything does a full circle, right? So you open it up, you've got the same size as an iPhone screen, but you flip it and it's that big, right? Because phones are getting bigger, so they can't keep getting bigger. It just become an iPad. So it needs to become like the same size as an iPad type of thing, but flip. So it's like a phone. So it'll be thin and it will flip, right? That's one example. The other example is that it will be able to flip into lots of different squares. So, for example, you have a thing that keeps flipping and flipping, and if you open it, it becomes a plasma TV. So, for example, you've got a phone that's this big, right? The phone will become this big when you open up all the squares, right? And you can put it on your wall and you can see your Netflix, right? If you fold it, it then becomes a screen of an iPad. If you want your phone this big, you keep folding it, and then the resolution becomes, say, 3:1, which is the same size of the phone. If you want a big version of an iPad, like when you stream to your Apple TV and it goes on your TV, you've now got, say, a 20:1 ratio of a phone. But it's going to be like it will open out, but because it's so thin, it can fold up really tiny. So, as you said, everything's going to be on it. You can have a TV that you can unfold and put on your wall. It's going to be a phone. You can have a different size screen because you just have to open up like more squares of it, for example. At some point, for example, you will have like the hologram thing where you have like two things that are connected, and then it opens up and has like stilts where it like opens up and you flip up the thing like that. And there's like light frequencies going down and bouncing off from the top screen to the bottom screen. And you can see like the hologram thing. For example, a Tesla car, I think at some point he's going to have the sat nav in the screen. So when you're driving, you can see out the window, but you can actually see like it says Starbucks, 50 minutes till the end of the motorway, 3 chicken wings left in KFC, or Costa Coffee's around the corner, special discount. So you can see like a 3D, you know, like in school we have Google, you know, like you know, when you create a 3D thing on a computer, you take the real house and it simulates the house. So you can almost like plan your rooms and what it's going to look like. So a simulation 3D thing, right? So that will happen. You'll see like like the Sims, simulation of trees and cars. But as you're driving in the window, looking through the screen, you'll see everything in simulation, and you'll see the road, and you'll see that person's playing Angry Birds, and you can connect to that person. But yeah, the TV thing.
It actually, the first time you actually said something, and I think I agree with it, but I'm actually thinking the same thing, because I've seen like prototypes of like the sort of folding phones. So I think you'll have a phone where there'll be a camera here, and then there'll be like another camera here or a sensor, and then using the prism concept, they'll shoot back at each other, and in that same screen where they're like in this space, it'll create the image 3D, or then it's just that'll be the new level of phone where you can hold it, or well, I guess you still would have to like hold the phone. Phones have never, I mean, you have Bluetooth, but I don't think that necessarily will meet the need of people. People like to actually tangibly and tactically touch things. So, but I think you're right. There'll be a phone where it'll be like this, and you'll be able to fold it, because that's been the recent sort of push, and then you have it that shooting from both ends, and then you have a 3D image in the middle where maybe you can turn it and it'll be similar to what you're talking about, but it'll be like sort of phone size. So that's cool. Like, but I do wonder what the next iteration is, because for instance, technology doesn't end, but our imaginations do. And that's where I think education uh, is really important, where you can ask kids of, okay, here's this technology. Kids have smartphones right now. And so because kids have smartphones now, you can say, hey, well, what else can you do with this? And just let them play with it and watch what they do. And that's, I think, the next sort of
Yeah.
evolution of it. I think that's the answer. I'm curious about that, though.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like asking kids their imagination and their thoughts on this, because like they're the future. So it's like you could be a massive corporation and business, and you are getting future ideas from a kid that most people would never know exist, because the CEO board of directors come up with the ideas. Who would think to go to a child and ask, what do you think this is? What would you like this to do? I'd like this to get Barbie to speak to me, and then like you find a way to implement Barbie. Like
Yeah.
it's a great idea. Like getting kids to input business ideas, because at the end of the day, they're going to be the ones who buy it. They're the ones going to be like, "Mommy, I want this thing."
Yeah, and it's interesting because, like, I mean, while I'm appreciative to be on your podcast, I thought about it. Like, I have a podcast as well, and I think about, and I listened to a girl I found on Twitter. I love Twitter, freaking love Twitter. And she said she had an episode. It was really short, 15 minutes. She said everyone has a podcast, and while I don't, it's not, it's a generalization, but it's not true, but everyone kind of does have a podcast. And I think podcasting is the next iteration of social media. I think this is why Facebook has a live feature. This is why Instagram has their live feature. And this is why other things like TikTok and and Twitch exist, because they understand the next medium of social interaction is podcasting, is actually talking. Because you get lost in the sauce, so to speak, or you get lost in the shuffle with social media, because you have algorithms that prevent things, whereas podcasting kind of circumvents that. And they're like, oh, well, fuck that, man. I just give you a direct link. Here's my podcast. And if you want to talk to me, you can talk to me. And I think that's what's going to push past, because people have shown with social media, they want to talk to each other, but they want to do it more sort of in a live, I want to interact with people, which is interesting. I don't know if you have a Twitter, but like, I like Twitter so much. I mean, I have Facebook and all other ones, but I like Twitter so much more, because Twitter is really just people out there kind of goofing around, having fun. Sometimes they're malicious, but it's all cool about meeting strangers. But Facebook is very, very sort of organized and streamed, and I have to know you, and let me check this. But in Twitter, they're like, fuck that, man. Like, hey, man, I'm saying this random thing. I saw you say it. That's funny. And let me see what else you do. But it doesn't ask you for all of your information. So you can create, where this, I think the imagination does come back a little bit. You can create whoever the hell you want to be on there. And I mean, I think we have personalities we show to the public and personalities we show in private. And so I think it allows people to be who they want to be and dream how they want to dream. So I think podcasting is cool as hell, and I think it will. I think you're gonna see a greater shift on the big social medias now, shift towards being a platform to sort of host podcasting more so.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like when you say host podcasting, it's just live streaming but recorded. Like it's already there. Like technically a Skype call, 10 years ago was a podcast, apart from it wasn't being recorded. So again, all the tools are here for everyone to do the things that they want. It's just you've not realized that the tools are there. But yeah, as more people struggle to see authenticity and human connection, they're going to find that having a conversation with a stranger online is going to be better than not having a conversation at all. And although I don't really like the fact that everything's becoming digital, because we're losing like real physical connection, again, you got to go through the cycle to realize what you want and don't want. So you have to go through the cycle or speaking to strangers online until you realize, yeah, this is great, but I'd still rather speak to John at the bus stop, right? But you have to go through the motion of trying to find this thing online, hence why you're on your phone. And then when you find it or don't find it, you realize, actually, I just want a fucking human being. And that Pornhub and AR, augmented reality, with my glasses, seeing that bitch in front of me, humping me, isn't the same. Because when I take it off, she's not there and I'm pissed off. And that makes me angry. And I don't want to make myself angry. And then, so yeah, you need to go through that cycle. But yeah, it's true. Podcasting is the human need for interaction. And I don't think it's going to be flooded. I don't think that it's reached its peak for the people in it. I think that it's a select group of people who have the ability and the confidence to speak, who end up seeing it through, rather than just doing one every now and then. You can't build if you just do one every now and then. You've got to, like anything, you've got to be consistent. Otherwise, it's just like a passion. And it's like a passion always ends up, you do it for a certain period of time and then you don't. Like you painting, you play Xbox, you get a chess piece, you knit, you do gardening, and then you do something else. It just becomes like, what next? So if people don't take it as a serious career type of thing, it'll just be like I'm just going to do this and then stop. So there's not much competition, but it is getting popular. But then again, the people on it, most of them don't end up being consistent enough that they've become a Joe Rogan.
Well, let me ask you a question, because I mean, obviously, you have a podcast, and so I was gonna just make a small point, like the whole virus thing that's in the world right now. You're actually noticing it's pushing people to work remotely, which I think is interesting. I have a friend in China, and he's been quarantined in his house for like the last 2 months, and I'm podcasting with him on Thursday. But it's forcing them to sort of work remotely. And so I've taught English online, and I don't like it because I like the human interaction, because you like sort of the energy of people. But I understand it has a necessity where maybe if we sort of add little parts of it into our sort of routine, we'll become a little better at it, and we'll be better at interacting with each other online. But damn, I lost my question. Oh, so it was about podcasting. So I did lose the question. Hold on. Podcasting in I don't know. I forgot. So it was about podcasting.
You were saying that everything is becoming online, and it's funny because China and the virus has made everyone go online more. It's fun because everything is online.
But then you see, like, I don't know if you pay attention to markets and stuff. I kind of try to be a jack of all trades, and just because I think knowing a little bit about everything doesn't hurt you. But like, so you see markets are like, they're just tumbling, like, oh my God, the businesses are worried about their productivity. But I'm like, dude, if your business actually thought about having an online component as sort of a backup thing, which feels archaic that they wouldn't think that way. But then so they're reaching sort of parts where they're like, oh, we have to suspend training. But I'm like, you can still be productive. Or are you saying that human interaction is necessary? And if that's the case, then they have to find a way to blend that human interaction with the digital interaction. But it was your point about consistency about podcasting. And the interesting thing is, like, so what was your motivation to start your podcast? Because, like, for instance, I told my mom yesterday, I said, the reason I started my podcast is, first, I wanted to just put my thoughts out there because I don't have children or anything like that. So I want my legacy to exist in the world, and with podcasting, I can stick my legacy out there however I want to. Right. And then I said, you know what? Well, I have conversations with my friends and family on a regular. So why don't I just put that in the form of some of the stuff we talk about? I'll just plan what the conversation is a little more than I normally do, and then we'll just record it. So, like, what was your motivation for doing podcasting anyways? And like, how have you kind of grown yourself into doing it and being consistent?
So I want to take over the Tonight Show. Okay.
That's cool.
Hang on. I want to take over the Tonight Show, right? But I say I want to be the next host of James Corden's Late Late Show. Why? I need a goal. It needs to be, I don't know whose Tonight Show it's going to be. It could be Conan's slot. It could be Fallon's slot, Kimmel's slot. I don't know. But you need a goal. I want to take over James Corden's Late Late Show, right? How am I going to do it? Well, I didn't know how I was going to do it. I need to be me, show my knowledge, show my ability to communicate with random people. I'm funny. I get the conversation going. These are all key skills that talk show host needs. And I didn't know how to get there. I thought, do I need to go on TV? Then I need to get an agent. But then I need to have something to offer. And so like, what can I offer? I just talk. I'm just me. So then there's reality TV. And it's like, well, that's not really like high credibility. And I was lost and I didn't know how to do it. And I suddenly thought, podcasts. I can just talk and be me, and people can see like the interview type one-on-one. And then that was it. I had my plan and I was off and I started the podcast. And so now it's all about preparation for the Late Late Show. Someone will see me who's got connections, who's looking for the next host, and they will work in CBS in America or on NBC, and they'll be like, dude, I've seen your work. You want the show, don't you? I said, yes, I do. He says, well, Conan, he's stepping down in 2 years between you and me. Come out. Absolutely amazing. It's not Jimmy Kimmel slot as I thought. It doesn't matter. Because once you go there, the outcome isn't exactly how you thought. And I know that you need a kind of a goal to head towards. And it might be Kimmel slot. I know that my ratings will be so good that the Tonight Show will offer me the slot. Okay, I'll get such good ratings, right, on like the Late Late slot that they'll be like, mate, you're smashing it. Here's the Tonight Show slot. Fallon had Late Night Fallon, and they gave him the Tonight Show. Again, all comes down to ratings. Fallon and Corden will have had their shows for about 6 to like 8 years at that point in 3 years' time. So any one of them could step down at any point. Anyone could step down at any point. Who knows? James Corden might step down. I might get it. Fallon steps down 2 years later. I get the Fallon slot. Okay. All I know is that if you keep moving towards your goal, if you've got the skills and abilities, you can do anything.
That's awesome. And you know, the thing is, like, for instance, and I think that's awesome. And you put it out there, and I guess using different verbiage, you're gonna manifest it, and you're part of manifesting it now. So I think that's really cool. Like, I agree with that, the goal thing. So I guess another question I have is like, goal setting has always been important, but like there's a sort of levels of goal setting. So there's like the goal setting of the goal in your mind, and then there's the goal setting of the goal written down on paper. Do you think you have to do both, or like what do you think for you has worked to make it like become a reality? Is it something you have to write down and then plan? Because we don't know everything to how to kind of plan it. So what did you do?
So it all comes down to feeling. What do you do in order to get that feeling that you feel it already exists? How would I feel when I sit on that chair and there's an empty studio? No one's in the audience. The camera's there, but it's not on. There's no one there. They're all in the back. They've all gone home. And I'm sat in this chair thinking David Beckham, Justin Bieber is going to be there in the not so distant future, plugging their new book, whatever, right? And I'm looking there and I imagine going, welcome to the Tonight Show with me, Oliver George Cartlidge. We've got a great... And how you get that feeling, it's circumstantial. Some people may need to write it down. Some people's imagination might be enough. Some people might get that feeling by speaking about it. But when you feel that feeling as if it has already happened, it's the same feeling as if you're there. It's just, it's in your head. The brain don't know the difference between what's real and what's not. So how I write down my thoughts and feelings, I also vision it. I vision like the main thing and I write it down and I order it so I can see it on paper and I reorder it. And then I think about it in my head with the new order. So writing it down for me doesn't necessarily give me that feeling like it's going to happen, but it allows me to kind of relax more because I can now see it in order, as opposed to trying to think about all the different orders and how am I going to get to America because I need a visa? How am I going to get a visa? I haven't got any money. If you write it down in order, you can see the steps. So you just focus on that step and then that step. And then, for example, 100 podcasts and then get an agent and then someone will see me and then they'll work for... And it just happens in steps. So writing it down, I think, is important because it allows you to see clarity. It just does. Like your brain's like a billion thoughts. As you write it down, you see your thoughts in order. And it doesn't stress me out like it used to because I had a head of fucking millions of thoughts and I should drive myself crazy. So yeah, I've got 2 whiteboards. So when I just write down the whiteboard and reorder it, and then that, like, I have all these ideas and I write them on the whiteboard and I change and I move things around and I change. And then all of a sudden, I haven't gone on the whiteboard for like 2 weeks because it's all in order and I just have to go through it. It's amazing. Not touch the whiteboard and when I'm in the process. It's rubbing it off, adding stuff, rubbing it off. reading stuff, remove that.
That's brilliant, man.
Connection lost. Hang on. Right, you can talk now.
Oh, that's brilliant. But it kind of goes back to where we started before of be having that imagination of a kid. It sounds like when you can harness as an adult that imagination that a child has, you can make anything possible. Because the thing is, like, kids can't write initially, so everything is in their head. And so it's just as they get older, they learn how to sort of make things, and they draw the stick man or whatever, and that's how they kind of manifest. So, like, for instance, like you said, something kind of motivational, and I'm kind of curious about this because I listen to motivational stuff all over the place, right? Because I think, like you said, anything that's in your mind is real. This is why I often stay away from certain things, because people get emotional about them, and you probably do the same thing, so I agree. And so I look at that and I'm like, okay, for instance, I am writing, like I said, I'm writing two screenplays, and in my head I can see everything I'm writing, right? And I've never written a film. But I watch hella sort of story circle stuff on how to make a film. And so, like, I wrote a book and stuff like that, and I'm like, well, how do I organize myself if I don't know what the hell is like there? And so for you, like, where did you feel like your original motivation came from? Like, did you have to know who you were and personality wise to say, okay, I'm going the late show is going to be my show? But how did you know that was you? Like, and you said it was a feeling, but, like, I'm sure you felt good about different things, but how did you know that feeling was the sort of avenue to go down? Because I'm curious, like, I'm trying to think for myself as well.
Well, in my head, I'm a big deal, right? I'm going to be a big star. And I've always seen myself as the greatest. Not that I'm better than anyone, just I'm the greatest because I feel fantastic and empowered when I think of myself as a god, right? Anyone can think of themselves as a god. You just have to have that self-belief, right? So when I was younger, my father always said you can do anything, be who you wanted. He was always great at everything. He could draw, he could sing, he could do impressions, he was good at every sport. Everyone loved him. He was good at everything. So he was my idol. I looked up to him. He was God, and I wanted to be God. And I became my father and more. So I always had this enormous self-belief, and I've always done what I wanted to do in my head and not what people told me what to do. So I didn't have any friends growing up because I didn't follow the friends and what they were doing. I was always doing what I wanted to do. So essentially, I was the lost animal, sort of just sniffing over there by the tree, whereas all the other animals are here eating the grass. And so you become out of sync. And as soon as you become out of sync, that's it. You're fucked. Now you're on your own, right? As soon as you leave that pack and go left and they go right, you're on your own. So then you just become more creative, start thinking about ideas and business ideas. In terms of the talk show thing, I've always wanted to lead. I'm a good leader. I make people laugh. I'm funny. I like to interact with people. I want a name, not because I want to be famous, because of what I can do with my name. If I've got a name and money and a platform, I can do so much amazing shit whenever I want to. I could be like, right, I'm coming to Africa to build a mud hut or a school for these children. And then money comes my way because I've got the brand and the platform. I want to go to London and create a homeless shelter. Bang, money comes my way. I want to go and help people in the Australian fires. Bang, money comes my way. The power you have when you have a name is amazing. And so it's like, well, how do I get there? Acting. I haven't acted before. I know I can act if I had the opportunity. Like Kevin Hart, he's not an actor, but give him a comedic film, he can act. It's about selling the films.
Yeah.
It's about selling the films, not whether you can act or not, right? Can I sing? I can sing in tune to a level of an artist. Who knows? Who cares? It doesn't matter. But it's not what I wanted to do. I don't want to get up at 6, sign fucking million footballs so they can give them out to, like, kids at school. David Beckham signs Hop. No. Whereas me, I'm a creator. I want to sit down with a production team, create. I know the ideas I will have for that show will be, no one else will have these ideas. I'll be sat on that room creating James Carpool karaoke. I will create so much crazy, imaginative stuff that people will be like, where the fuck did that come from? How can you think about that? We were just speaking about going for lunch in Starbucks. You've come up with that. And it's not that it's not possible. It's just no one will have thought to do it. So when I start manifesting my ideas on the talk show and the production, I've got people to work on my ideas and create, I'll be unstoppable, right? and that's my perfect platform because it'll be my show. I can create for me. Audience love it. People want to get inspired, and so it's a combination of this is what I'm meant to do. Have my own show. People will say, "God, I've never met anyone like you. You're crazy. Like just Oliver. Like I'm just Oliver." And so late night with Oliver. You know what I mean?
I know, I like it. I think that's really cool. I think it's inspiring. It just, I do. It's sort of that pack mentality you were talking about. Of, I think people like to feel comfortable, and it sounds like you're comfortable being uncomfortable. So, you know, but I think there's a balance you have to have of sort of knowing how to sort of mainstream some things, but also know when it's time to kind of wander away from the pack as well.
Absolutely, yeah. So we need people in life, but if you want to get something done, sometimes you have to go alone. It's just the way it is. It's a compromise. Sometimes you need your mates to help you lift the car if you're stuck under it, and sometimes if you want to, create your dreams, you've got to go off and find someone who can make it happen. It's a compromise. It's circumstantial. It's not just one or the other. A talk show is nothing without people, but it's also nothing without a person who can provide that service. And so it's the best of both worlds. But for example, right, I want your opinion on this. Somebody said to me on the phone, do you think the coronavirus is a hoax made by China? For example, you speak about how everything is online and how everyone's forced to go online. But when you think about who owns like online social media, phones, China, more you need to go online. We need 5G. Who creates Huawei and 5G? China. Let's just say, for example, right, that the Chinese made this flu and it's man-made. So we all isolate and go online. And then China can, for example, provide the technology and the supplies for online. For example, America, they've renegotiated their trade deal. So China isn't the big boy anymore. It's America. They're back in town. What if they were like, shit, America's taken over. How can we get them back? And they're like, let's create a flu. So now they have to work online and we only have 5G. And if businesses need 5G, otherwise they go bust, we provide the 5G because America's not got 5G yet. So they create the flu. Everyone goes online. Fuck, we need internet. 4G isn't quick enough. China's like, we can provide the 5G. And they provide the 5G. What do you reckon? Is that a possibility that it was a hoax made by China? What do you reckon? Or did it come from a bat? An innocent bat in a cave? Or a chicken?
Well, I think it's very possible it was created. I think a lot of the diseases we have are manufactured, and because, for instance, like if just kind of going back, I remember when I was a little boy and I was learning about diseases in classes, and I remember one of my teachers said to me like AIDS came from a human having sex with a monkey. And I'm like, why would a human have sex with a monkey? Like, why would they do that? Like, but the people believe that, and they created such a cockamamie crazy thing that it pushed them away from thinking that someone made it in the lab. Because they're like, oh, well, humans, because, I mean, bestiality is real. I mean, so it's not like people didn't do that. But it's like so they create that narrative of the completely cockamamie thing on the side so they can create and do whatever in the lab. And I think that there are people organized together in groups who have sort of joined their intelligence together where they could come up with ideas like that. The humans are, and I'm including myself, humans are very they're, I don't want to use the word sheep because that's not it. They're very conformist. They like to conform to things that make them feel comfortable. So you have people who say the coronavirus is false or it came from eating a bat, which is very true. It's possible because people eat different animals throughout the world. But the question is, there are people who have interacted with all kinds of people across the world eating things that we mainstream Western people wouldn't eat. Why hasn't any other virus come from those things? Why is it this specific thing, right? And so with that, I would say if that was created, I think it's brilliant. And no, I do, because the one thing being
it's
in
brilliant that you
America,
all died.
Well, think about this, because like here's the thing that I find interesting. Like, for instance, if we talk about like governmental systems, people are like communism is terrible and yada yada yada. Which in general, I think sort of having a group thing probably is bad. It stifles innovation. But in the same breath, China doesn't truly function as a communism. Socially, they do. But the thing about it is that same way it requires human citizens, people, to agree with it, to coalesce to whatever's happening. So those humans have to move from being a human to being the government, right? And this is where people use like the Constitution and all that stuff of like, we need to protect ourselves from the government. You never can protect yourself from the government, because the government is always going to be bigger than people, and people like groupthink. So people will choose to be a part of the government before they choose to be a part of the masses, because the government has the finances, the guns, etc. And so if China did indeed create the coronavirus, they have the largest standing army in the world. That means that standing army is a group of people who have chosen to relinquish their membership card in the human population and become a part of the governmental thing. And so to kill off a bunch of people or to quarantine hundreds of thousands of people, because there's billions of people in China, so to quarantine 70,000 people is nothing to them. We don't know what's going on there, so they could kill off their people and we would never know. And they would say it's in the name of the greater good. And what can we say? And we can say nothing. I mean, they drink from a river, either the Yellow or the Yangtze, probably both, that they're heavily polluted. And you're like, well, how do those people drink? That's their water source. How do they drink from that? How does that affect their mind and their mentality? Maybe they're trying to find a way to deal with that. So, I mean, I've said this and it sounds terrible, but like viruses and plagues are the Earth's way of population control. The Earth has almost 8 billion people. Apparently, it's not supposed to have 8 billion people. So the Earth is like, okay, well, we're going to kill people off because guess what? They have to die. And you just hope you're just not a part of that number. But truthfully, I mean, humans may accelerate some of that. So is it possible? Very, very possible. I mean, if you use U.S. history, because I used to teach history in the United States, they they wanted to see what the effect of syphilis was on specific people and races. So they gave black people during the mid to 1900s syphilis to see what would happen. So it's not beyond people's ability when they are acting in the government's nature to kill off people, because if they think these group of people are not important, well, fuck them. Kill them off. No one will miss them. So, yeah, it's very possible.
I've got 5 points to make. I was watching Designated Survivor, and on the episode, there is this man-made flu, which is created by, for example, some Russian in a lab, right? And they infect the flu with loads of birds, and as the birds fly out, they drop dead, and then the flu spreads from the dead bird. So yeah, that program is about creating a man-made flu or something, and the next pandemic, for whatever reason, right? Population control, whatever, because you want to kill humans. But yeah, it's possible to create a man-made flu and spread it. Secondly, a flu jab is the smaller version of a flu. You could create a full 100% version of a flu, right? And inject somebody, and then when they cough, they now spread that full version of a flu. So again, that flu can be created from a man in a lab, and it could be spread. Thirdly, nature will always live and then die, right? As you said, there's it's the cycle of life. Trees will grow, there'll be acorns, they'll create more trees, and then the trees will take their nutrients, and then some will live and some will die, and then the big ones survive. And then it's just how it works. Like nature will eat something and then shit it out somewhere else. And then that seed and that shit will create another fish, for example. How do fish get in swamps or the oceans all the way over there? How is there a fish in this river? Well, clearly a bird ate a fish or something, was flying, shat in that water, and there was seeds, and there was a fish. Like birds, how do new species of plant get into other countries? Again, if you're not trying to smuggle it in through the Australian border, or whatever, some guy's got some seeds shoved up his arse or in his suitcase. It's just birds. So we're trying to protect native species coming into other countries. Well, we with no fucking idea that that bird is just going to fly across the ocean. Like, you can't stop that bird from coming in. Excuse me, bird. Can you just take a shit, please, in this thing? I want to make sure you've got no species from Uganda or from America or from China there. Yeah. So, yeah. There's a way of life resetting itself. Fourthly, flu. Well, where does it come from? For example, you eat a chicken, right? That had flu. Where did that chicken get the flu from? Okay, it ate a bat. Okay, well, where did that bat get it from? It all comes down to, for example, when I said life began from this small bit of bacteria in water. For example, right, if somewhere along the line an animal drunk from water and it's infested with bacteria and fucking disgusting shit, then yeah, that could be where the flu came from. So forget it's called fluenza, HIV. Well, what is it? It's just like foreign pathogens, whatever, microorganisms that take down your cell, right? So, like, where does that come from? It has to come from somewhere. And if you go around the circle of, okay, the bat ate the chicken ate the dog, and the dog fucked the squirrel fucked the man, Michael Jackson fucked Janet Jackson. Like, where does it all come from? And essentially, it all comes from, it has to come from, like, bacteria and water, you know? Like, if you fucked the chimp and got it, where did the chimp get the HIV from?
Exactly.
Well, you drunk out of some water. So, yeah, it all comes back around. And you said, we've become so populated. Let's just say that China is trying to wipe out some population because there's just too many of them, right? I do believe that governments are losing control and smaller governments will be created because you can't fucking control. So you can't control that many people. Let's just say they are creating this to wipe out people. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. But you can see how it would make sense if you had an argument for and an argument against. And just like God, no one knows if he's real. No one knows if China created it. No one knows if it came from somebody having sex with a squirrel.
It's very, very true. It's true.
Someone can't be asked to buy a new fleshlight. So there's the dead squirrel like in his garden. He thinks, fuck it, no one will know. Shoves it on his cock and starts wanking it. Before you know it, he's got the coronavirus.
Well, and that it goes back to that imagination thing. I think people are like, they do things beyond our own imagination because it's not in our mind. We don't think it's real, but people are imagining shit all the time. Like, and so I just think it just makes it interesting, the things that come into play in the world. So I think that makes it really, really cool. And you have to, and I think you mentioned it earlier, so I'll just reiterate it. If you can visualize it in your mind, if you can visualize it in your mind, it's real. There's that idea didn't come from nowhere. You saw something and it was able to be formulated. So the human brain is definitely the most powerful thing, and we don't know anything about it.
That's the thing, right? People don't realize that everything in their life that they have now, a job, a furniture, a child, the clothes you want your children to wear, that all came from your mind, but unconsciously, meaning you thought about it and you did it, but you weren't aware that you're thinking about things and it becomes reality. The difference is that the future, when you think about stuff and it becomes reality, you're just aware before it happens. So people are always creating. It's just they're not aware that their thoughts become things. It's just a transition in mindset that if you created your past, if you create the present from the past, then you're going to create the future from the present. And it's just becoming aware that I've always been doing it. It's just I wasn't aware. So now you have more control over the things you think about because you know it will happen. Like you can choose to do this or do that, whereas before you just naturally do this and do that, not really knowing why. You're just a wild lion sniffing a trail until it sees a carcass. You're just sniffing and then suddenly there was a carcass. But now you're like, okay, I'm sniffing. I'm hungry. I think this is going to lead me to food. And you keep going, food. I'm now aware that my sniffing led me to a dead carcass and you eat. And that's the thing. People don't realize that they're imaginating things all the time. Often a lot of nonsense and bollocks. That's not going to serve you purpose. Often stuff that you can't control. Stuff that's in the past. Stuff that is just a fantasy. Like having a threesome with David Beckham and fucking whoever. Waste of your time. Waste of your energy. Waste of brain activity. If you want a threesome, just go on Tinder and say, I want a threesome. Because then you're not wasting your energy. You're putting it into action. You're manifesting your thoughts. And a lot of stuff doesn't manifest. It's just bollocks. And the brain takes up the most energy in the body more than the physical body does. Hence why people are tired all the time, because they're just forever thinking and not taking action.
I I couldn't say it better, man. I couldn't even agree more. I totally agree with all of that.
Oh dear. Yeah, when was the last time you fucked a squirrel?
You know, you asked a legitimate question, like if there wasn't the monkey, how did the monkey get it, right? Like, you know, something had to give it to the monkey.
Exactly, it's like chicken or the egg. Everything has to come from one source. It's like, how did humans get here? How did humans get from the jungle to America, to Europe, to England, to Scotland without cars and shit? And the answer is they just kept migrating and evolving over time. How did this HIV get to the monkey? Well, it obviously came from a squirrel, for example. How did the squirrel get it? It came from a bat. How did the bat get it? Came from a fly. Eventually, how did anything evolve from anything? And the answer is that is just what life is. We're just a bit of evolved bacteria, and some make it and some don't. And it's very interesting how you say that the universe has a way of resetting itself. You become overpopulated where there's too many people in the same place where disease can spread quick. Whereas years ago, if all the animals are spread out, the disease will kill off, for example, this trees and this swamp and this animals, but these animals are fine. And then they have another generation. Whereas human beings are all living together, you wipe everyone out in seconds. So it's like we're only supposed to have a certain amount of population in a certain area. And if you get too big, it will go back and reset. And if you didn't have all these communities so close together, you just have that same population because they'd be spread enough that they won't catch it. Like when you look at trees on Google Maps, they're all the trees. There's like trees here, like crops, like alien crops, right? You see on Google Maps.
Right.
They're all spread out equally. It's like, how come they've got the same gap? How come all these trees have the same space? And that's because they need a certain amount of space in between them in order to survive. And now human beings are all living together, like loads of trees in the same place. Trees aren't going to survive. They're going to die. They need to have space. Humans aren't supposed to live all in the same place. They're going to die. They need to have space. And as you said, it's a way of resetting nature.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe the Chinese know that. From an ancient Chinese teaching from the Tao Te Ching or something, some historical philosophy book that told them kill people because they don't know how to live correctly.
Or you need space and you will always take what you haven't got if someone else has got it, aka a tree will take its nutrients from another tree. Or if some human's got an iPhone, you're going to steal it if you've not got one. But if you've got an iPhone, hey bro, let's play Angry Birds on our iPhones.
Right.
You always take what you haven't got. And yeah, fascinating. No one knows anything. We make up what we vision what we want to know, and we ignore what we don't want to know. And so when you look at it like that, nothing's real anyway, because if it wasn't real until you created it, and what you have seems real, but it isn't, because it's just, I'm starting to understand that everything is in our heads. Everything doesn't exist. Like, you know, the gold top and the blue top, some see blue, some see gold. And then there was the sound thing of laurel, yenny, laurel, yenny. You hear that same word depending on how your brain listens to it. So it's the sound frequencies. Some hear laurel, some hear yenny, laurel, yenny. Some see gold, some see blue. Well, if everyone is saying, if half the people say they see blue and gold and half say they hear laurel or yenny, what does that tell you? That everything is a perspective. Nothing is real. Everything is a perspective. If you see blue and I see yellow, then what the fuck is anything? We all see different.
Right.
Nothing's real.
Right.
It's all created in our heads anyway. So,
well,
yeah.
It's interesting because I've just seen this quite a few times, so I'm guessing I'm supposed to talk about it whenever I see it. But it was something like where humans think 7,000 thoughts a day, and about 80% of those thoughts are the same, which is why we continue to live the same life. So you have to try to do something different in your routine things to create that new branch thought, so you can reduce that 80% to 75% to 50%. And I think, again, I mentioned Neil deGrasse Tyson. He was like, the whole we only use 10% of our brain is bollocks. It's only bollocks because we only understand 10% of the brain. It's not because we only use 10%, because there's things that the brain does that we have no idea what the purpose or function is. And like you said, the brain uses the most energy. It's the engine of the car. And that's where you're tired. Like, you could be physically fine, but if your brain is tired, you can't do anything. And so you have to teach your brain to say, stop doing that. And you may or may not know Dr. Joe Dispenza. He's a huge, I think he's a neuroscientist or something like that. And he talks about, like, you talked about visualizing the future. So instead of thinking about the past, even though it is necessary, the past is always going to be a part of you. But it's imagine focus on the future and thinking about the next thing you're going to create. And I think that makes us more powerful as human beings, and it allows that, and it reduces that 80% down to other things. So, for instance, I told a friend one of the things I did to try to help improve my thought patterns is most people, I asked them which way do they thread their belt in their pants if they wear a belt, and they normally say from left to right. And I said I did that too. And so one day I decided I'm going to thread my belt the other way, because the holes do the same damn thing, right? A belt is a belt. And I did it, and for the whole day that I had my belt threaded the other way, I was confused and didn't know how to open my pants when I needed to go to the bathroom, because I'm like, damn it, what am I supposed to do? So my hands are like this. But he thought about that, and he's like, that's brilliant. But what it does is it causes your brain to think in a different way. And so instead of letting routine tasks be routine tasks, every now and then change that routine task to make it different, so you can start seeing things from a different perspective. So maybe when you change your brain, on Monday you threaded your belt left to right and you saw blue, and then Thursday you threaded it from right to left and you saw gold, and you're like, well, damn it, was that what I needed to do to change my brain? And you can kind of do that to help yourself.
Yeah, true. For example, they say we use 10% of our brain. As you said, what if the other 90% has other functions? Like when you go on an MRI scan and you think about certain things and you go into memories and you imagination, different parts of the brain lights up. Well, what if, for example, retaining information only happens in that part of the brain when you look at the whole brain as a whole? That's only 10%. What if that is the only part of the brain that is able to restore memories? And when you look at the whole thing, that's only 10%. That's why it's only 10%. And the other part of the brain does other stuff, like just stuff that we don't even know about. So it's not like we can use the whole brain to learn knowledge, because the knowledge part may be only in the, for example, hippocampus. So yeah, on a chart, 10% might be used, but really, that's all you need in order to remember everything and anything.
And what if the science we have available is only able to detect that part because of the radiation that it emits? Maybe that we only have the equipment to notice that radiation. We don't have the technology to recognize how the other 90% is actually emitting energy or radiation. Is radiation we're unaware of. As humans, I think we know way more than what we do. And like you said, we really don't know anything. So it's important to understand that we can and need to do better in terms of just who we are, and understand we don't know everything.
What I find amazing is that somebody could watch Netflix for an hour and a half, like in the time that we've done this, and yet we can do this for an hour and a half, and it's just as enjoyable. Someone else can choose to watch this for an hour and a half, or they can watch Netflix for an hour and a half. And the difference is that Netflix is man-made, materialistic, imagination, fake stuff. It's a fantasy. Whereas this is real. At what point, for example, are people going to start to watch other people living their life, for example, like reality TV or podcasts, as opposed to fictional stuff, when they realize that, yes, this is great watching this program, but it really isn't real. It's not the real world. I don't get real meaning out of it. I don't feel like my life has evolved because I'm watching all this Homeland shit, and it's good, but it's not real. And I feel like I'm not getting this purpose, which is human connection. Like, you feel like they're real people, but they're actors. They're not. At what point are people going to start to just, like, podcasting? Like, will it take over the next TV? Like, You know what I mean? People just watch podcasts all day as opposed to watching Prison Break.
I think people would do it if it was interactive and they got something out of it. So, like for instance, most business, if we think about business, I worked in sales before, and I was also a teacher. Most business is interaction with people. Either you're trying to sell someone something or inform someone about something. So it actually is about us interacting. So it's a matter of what medium do we use, and how do we organize those interactions with other people, because everything, I mean, think about it, like 90% of a person's day, if they work, it's interacting with something else. So podcasting, as you said, it is the media, it is the sort of next thing of we are interacting with people, but the question is how interesting is it to other people to watch that. And so, for instance, just the thing I learned about writing screenplays and stories is the first thing that you learn is that every single scene of a story that you make for entertainment must have they must have conflict. If you don't have conflict, then no one wants to watch it, because the human brain enjoys conflict because it creates something else from it. So you have to have
Hang
conflict.
on.
And so in a podcast like this, yeah.
It's all gone robotic. Just said the last 5 seconds again.
Oh, so I was saying, if we need to have conflict for things to be interesting, because that's how the human brain is stimulated, then where would the interest come from? Because, like for instance, in the conversation we're having, we haven't necessarily had a conflict about anything. We may have conflicted with culture outside of ourselves, but directly there's no conflict. And so people don't necessarily, unless, and I mean, again, they're followers or sheep or whatever, they don't want to watch anything that they see people agree with unless they agree with those people. So if they don't want to watch something that they see agreement with often, then they have to watch something that has conflict in it. And so that means, and most people want to see conflict as opposed to having someone just agreeing with them or giving them lip service, because thinking takes a lot of the energy, and they don't want to necessarily use that energy, because they believe they have a finite amount of energy to on, oh, well, I agree with those guys, or oh, what they said was deep. Well, now it's fucked up my whole day because now I have to think about that. So I think it depends.
I find that 8 hours sleep, the national statistics of we need 8 hours sleep, is bollocks, because the more you think, the more sleep you need. So if you think all day and you're creating like a director, you're going to need now 9.5 hours sleep. Okay, compared to the average person who just sits at their desk all day listening to their boss, who needs 8 hours sleep. And the person who is creating all the time and always thinking, if they don't get their 9 hours as opposed to 8, that hour difference is going to end up deteriorating their brain. So this thing about 8 hours, it's all circumstantial. Some people don't need much sleep. Maybe they don't think. Monks, they meditate all the time. They don't need much sleep. Like, and someone who's always thinking, they need more sleep. So you could say that averagely people need 8 hours. Well, averagely people just go to work and follow their boss. So that's why it's 8 hours. But everyone's different, because you're not considering about all their thinking during the day and all their brain activity during the day and all their thoughts and all their things they have to do. That is that's why we sleep, to remove the toxins from our brain being used all day. And when you set an alarm and you wake up, you're not ready to wake up. Like, you
No,
need
you're
to
not.
wake up naturally. Like, I toss and turn for an hour, and that's when I'm becoming awake. So I am aware that I'm tossing and turning, and then like that happens for about an hour. So you need an hour to essentially kind of wake up and then actually get up an hour later. Nowadays, our brain's still in like a deep sleep, and the alarm goes off. It's like opening a dishwasher halfway through. I wasn't ready yet. I'm still cleaning the dishes, mate. Shut the door. Shut the fucking door. Let the steam
Right,
out.
right,
Yeah.
right.
We're setting alarms, and yet our cycle of sleep hasn't finished. And sleep is so important. I'm not just speaking about from a scientific point of view. I'm talking about how shit I feel if I, for example, get 7 hours or don't, or wake up during the night versus how I feel when I sleep all the way through and I get 8 hours. It is,
Right.
it's night and day. I can't even imagine how people function without sleep. Some people just continuously get 6 hours. They have an alarm and they feel awful. And I feel so good all the time. I can't even begin to believe. I know what it used to be like. I look back at school and how tired I used to be, how shit I used to be, how much I used to lag because I didn't get sleep. I mean, fucking, it's so important. And you need to sleep and wake up when you naturally wake up. You can't wake up by an alarm.
No, you can't. And the thing about it is that it ruins your rhythms, and that's why it's actually why when people do studies talking about education, and they're saying there's specific hours that children learn better, it's because they're forced to be awake and their brains are not actually prepared to learn anything, and so it becomes an issue of are they really learning anything because their brains are not prepared to learn. So it's very interesting. Like I think it's a thing that that's just another example of us not knowing how the brain works and saying, hey man, so what can we do to make this thing work? And we just don't know, and we try it. But and I think because we need to create normal sort of norms, we do this thing because we don't know what result we'll get if we go outside of the norms.
It's true. Like, whole point of education is to educate someone, right? What's the point in me talking to you and teaching you if you're not listening or you don't understand? So when schools are made to start at 8 o'clock, people have to wake up at 6, 7 o'clock, right? But yet there's TV programs on all night. They're playing Xbox all night and they go to bed at 12 and they wake up at 6. How's anyone supposed to listen and absorb information in school the next day? It's just not possible. And if education is really about educating people and not about control of the people or just following old systems and patterns and getting people to go to school so they can go to uni so they can work for the establishments, they need to be getting up and starting school at like 10, 11 o'clock, having shorter days. If you got up at, say, 10 o'clock, started school at 11, went to bed at 1, 2 o'clock, whatever, and finished school 5 hours later as opposed to 6, 7 hours later, the school days would be less, but you would learn and absorb twice as much. The lessons can be twice as short. No one can sit there listening to a teacher for an hour. You can have half an hour lessons, 20-minute lessons, and you'll absorb and learn everything you need to learn that you would have done in an hour lesson. So now you've got the days twice as short. Everyone gets to go home twice as early. People can lie in, they can go to bed later, they can wake up later, and you learn because you've had enough sleep. It's the fucking biggest problem with education system right now. Everyone is evolving and they're always staying up, they're always thinking, they're on the phones, and yet we're still going to school like our parents did back in the 1950s, where they had nothing to do apart from fucking play chess and Monopoly and read a damn book and knit and fucking go for walks. Their brains didn't need much sleep. And now we're on our phones, our energy is being taken up by bloody Angry Birds and fucking bollocks, you know? We've not...
Yeah. Oh, and the thing about it is that we don't want to disrupt the system because there's a conservative way of making money, and those people who made money is like, well, if we change the way we make money, I don't know if I'll still be the rich person, so I don't want to change that. And you're like, no, damn it. And so you do wonder because of sort of generational wealth being passed down. Those children may disagree with the system, but they're like, hey, this is how this money was made, so I'm just going to keep doing that because that's what made me money. Hey, hold on a second. Let me plug my thing in because the battery is getting low. Cool?
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. Can you still hear me if I talk? And she will be loved, and she will be
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like somebody only gets rich by each person making an extra pound for him. So rather than him making £1, each person makes £1. 7 people, £7. He's rich. If those people aren't there, he's now not making £7. He can't pay his mortgage, which is now 4 times the amount of a normal mortgage. So the coronavirus is forcing people to stay at home and work. How the fuck are businesses going to run if they rely on small people? Which means that so many businesses are going to go bust. So many businesses are going to just collapse. Like, they're just going to go bust.
Well,
Fuck.
this will be my, I guess, the first moment of not disagreeing, but kind of disagreeing. I think this coronavirus, and being honest, this coronavirus is an opportunity for businesses to come up with the next model of how to do business. So, for instance, we're used to people being in offices and customers coming to our location, and we were uncomfortable with people doing things virtually. And the business owner that understands how to do everything virtually or has a plan to deal with sort of people being isolated as islands and individual things will be the business that thrives, and they will put the other businesses out of business because of their model. It's an example of what Jeff Bezos is doing with Amazon, and I forget the CEO of Alibaba, but the CEO of Jack Ma is doing.
Mr. Wong.
So those guys who have completely said, yeah, so Jack Ma is the CEO of Alibaba, I think, right? I think he is. Not sure. But anyways, so anyways, those people understanding that, hey, that you actually can make more money if you have everyone as your customer instead of the people who can get to you, right? And so that's what makes everything really, really different. And you start to condition people to say, okay, well, it's okay to not see each other or be around people. So it's similar to that movie WALL-E, which is one of my favorite movies. I mentioned Finding Nemo, and now I'm talking about WALL-E. I guess Pixar is like sort of the most forward-thinking group of people out there, which is associated with Steve Jobs as well. But you think about, if you understand how automation works and how to shift people to be automated and develop a greater degree of comfort with it, then you understand the next level, which is why I completely support your idea of you being the next the Tonight host and using podcasting as your platform to display that. But I think you, even in that case, you may take the platform of that late night talk show to another level that people have not even seen before. And I think the people who are able to thrive in this specific, if it is a pandemic, if they're able to thrive from it, this is where it's huge. This is where what you said, China is going to put the 5G out there, and they're going to supplant the Western countries and say, hey, you know what? You said communism is bad, but oh, look what communism just did. And even though they're a communist capitalist society that people don't necessarily want to acknowledge the capitalist part of them, because what they're doing, if they're doing this to take control, this is the most capitalistic thing you can think of. It's literally survival of the fittest, where I destroy my competition.
It's true, like yeah, like I think where did the flu come from? Like, is there a location where it came from? Well, like, where did it come from?
It's some place with a W, Wu something. I won't know until Thursday.
I know Wu-Tang is the place, but I'm saying, like, do they know if it came from an animal, or a guy fucked a squirrel, or what? Where?
You know, the thing about it is that that's a very interesting point, that the news has been very coy or quiet about that, because they put theories out there, but there's a lack of hard evidence of actually where it came from. Because if the flu originated in China and China controls their media, they have only allowed what they want out about where it's come from. So the Chinese government probably knows exactly where it came from, but the rest of the world probably will be in the dark for eternity to where the actual thing came from.
Yeah, survival of the fittest. So do you think that going online is only going to benefit big companies, or will it benefit small people? Or is it both? Because now the average man can make a pound around the whole world, just like the businessman can do. He can make a pound around the whole world. Whereas before, the average person was only making the money that the person was paying him, and the boss was making like money times the amount of employees he had. But now every corporation is going online. They can access the world, but also small man can access the world online. So is it going to benefit just big businesses, small people, or both? And that at that point, if everyone's making a pound from everyone, what if all the money runs out? Like if everyone's all making a pound by everyone online, what happens? Where does the money come from? Everything goes back to trading at a pound.
So to answer the money thing, I don't think money can run out for the simple reason that we live in a society that produces more money when it needs to, because it's not necessarily backed by anything. So money has value based on what we give it, right? And so there's that. But the question of will it benefit the big business or the small man or both? I'm going to say both, because the small man needs the big business to create the infrastructure to make the money. So like the small man doesn't create the systems to create the internet. They need the government and institutions to make that. So without the institutions to be that create basically the platform of the internet to operate it, they need that. Now at that level, it's dependent on how people make money. So you need the big business to run the internet and the power and all that stuff. But from that point of entry, then I think the small man has an opportunity to be on the same level as the big business if they're able to sort of politic their way into influencing whatever their sphere of influence is, whoever their following is. So, for instance, for you, with your podcast, if you're able to convince people, or at least be seen or acknowledged as an authority for specific parts of information, either to giving information people have never heard, or information that people may have never thought of, that elevates your forum where more people will want to listen to you, because you're giving either a perspective or information that no one has heard of, and big business will then watch you to see if you what influence you have, and at some point big business will look to either partner with you or employ you. It's similar to the thing you said at the beginning about Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan did his podcast and has done his podcast for years before he ended up on YouTube and had a huge following that he has now, and he has corporate sponsors. And the reason he has corporate sponsors is because he was able to build a sort of a grassroots thing, but Joe Rogan was doing like 5 other things to bring people to that podcast forum, because Joe Rogan hosted a TV show. He's a comedian. He does MMA. So he fights and he hosts the fights. So what he did is he said, I'm going to do everything in my personal life, and then I'm just going to have this one forum where I'm going to talk about it and talk to the people I've met in the other forums I've been a part of. And I hope that one of these things brings the notoriety to me to make me become an authority, because if you go on YouTube, there are several videos that are asking, is Joe Rogan like a corporate tool? Is he being used to sort of puppet the people? And people will say, well, if you look at Joe Rogan 5 years ago, what he was saying 5 years ago compared to what he says now, it sounds like he's sort of talking more the corporate line. And it may or may not be true. But the thing about it is Joe is doing what he needs to do, and he's remained authentic enough to his audience that it doesn't matter, because his audience continues to grow.
Let me just go to the toilet for 1 second, right? Did you hear my singing?
I do. You sound awesome.
Yeah. So, what else should we talk about before we round this up?
I'm not a big video gamer, but video games came to my mind. I think it's because you said something about virtual reality, or maybe even virtual reality. I don't know.
Yeah, so on the topic of like where smartphones are going to go, I do believe that a contact lens will be the lens of a camera. So rather than having a GoPro in your head, the camera lens is your contact lens. And so wherever you look is more like virtual reality, but so more precision, right? At the same time, whatever's on your phone is going to be digitally transferred to the chip contact lens in your eye. So you can see, like, as I said, the Tesla car, you can see out the window, but you can also see, like, digitally, that's HSBC building, that's Starbucks. So you're looking at your eyes, you can see stuff, but you can see, like, you have a camera and it says, this is a plant, this is a lamp. You can get this lamp on Amazon. Picks up what it is, and it says where you can buy it online, you know what I mean?
Right.
It realizes what it's looking at, like a sofa, and then it sends like links online where the sofa can be bought. That's what the eye is going to do. You can look around and it'll digitally say this is this or this is that, you know.
I agree with that. I think Google tried something like that with Google Glass, which essentially failed because of price point and fear.
And
but
Snapchat
the big
lenses
question,
as well.
Right. And you know what really, I think the biggest fear and question behind all of it, which people don't necessarily talk about, is the radiation that is attached to those things, right? So I can see that happening, but then I think the question is what are the health effects of having that? So you can have the contact lens in your eye or glasses if you are leery about putting things in your eye. But like, what is that radiation doing to you? What is the point of it? Because there has to be a signal coming from somewhere. And so now your eye or your head or your ear or whatever is starting to get radiation that it never had before. So what effect will it have on you and your brain? And I'm sure people will put it out there because cell phones emit even more radiation than they've ever done before. And so you just wonder like what kind of effect that will have on people long term. Because I think I agree. I think they're going to have things like that, sort of like some of those movies where we see people touch things virtually and move things from side to side. As far as like sort of cell phones go. So I guess it depends on like the willingness of people to be the guinea pig for the next thing.
I think that has become a point where you're either in or you're out. You can't worry about health. Like you can't worry about health if you're eating shit and watching stuff and not sleeping and, sitting on a chair. It's gone beyond. If you were thinking about health, you need to become a monk in a forest and forage, right? If you're living in a modern society with everything that is here, you can't be worried about a little frequency coming off your contact lens, which may give you eye cancer because you're on your phone, you're watching TV, you've got Wi-Fi, 3G everywhere. Like it's gone too far. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You either live this short-lived, high man-made reality, or you go and live as a monk for 200 years in a forest in the mountains. I mean, sometimes I wish I could just do that, but then I realize my family will miss me, so I have to stay here.
Well, and
if it was up to me, I'd go off myself.
Well, and the other thing about that is that we have developed, obviously there's all kinds of new levels and types of cancer. So clearly cancer is the offshoot of technological advancement. And so I guess the next science would be how to equip the body to deal with or be resistant to those cancers, to make them maybe not happen because they're going to happen, but to make them be malignant instead of sort of in a way where it damages you. So it's about like, how do you make this thing that we're inevitably going to get not damage us? So how can we make this cancer we're going to get, how can we make it malignant instead of something that kills us? And I think that's sort of the next level of science as well.
Right. Shall we wrap this up?
Sure.
So plug anything you want to plug: websites, links, podcasts, your Babe Station network, fucking link, whatever.
Sure. All right. So I have a podcast called Voices of My Brothers, Sisters, and People. It's on Spotify. It's distributed through Anchor. So whatever the 9 channels Anchor has, it's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, etc. That's just really the thing I'm doing right now. I mean, I build websites and stuff, but my podcast is actually my passion. I am consistent because I have an episode come out every Wednesday. So there will be an episode this Wednesday. It is about politics. I've done 50. It's episode number 51. I stayed away from politics, but I got enough clamoring that I actually did one on politics. I won't do a ton of them because I'm not a big fan of that. As far as like having misinformed or closed-minded people, so to speak, on sort of a conversation. But other than that, Voices of My Brothers, Sisters, and People by Lou Nesbitt is the thing I'd plug.
Okie dokie. I'm going to press stop. Anything else you want to say? I'll say goodbye at the end, but I'm just going to press stop recording.
Yeah. Nah, man, that was cool. It was fun. I loved it. I love